Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Fireside Chat, TDCX Talks Generative AI Edition, where we'll discuss all things generative AI. I'm Lucas, and I'm your host. And today we're discussing the rise of generative AI during the past couple of months, the use cases for companies that have come up since, as well as some of the limitation of the technology. I'm joined today by a friend and an ex-colleague, Arjun Narayan. He's the head of trust and safety and CX for Smart News. Arjun, thank you very much for your time and welcome.
Lucas, thank you so much for having me at your show today. Pleasure is all mine, and as always, it's amazing to reconnect with you.
Great. It's great to see you as well. Why don't you give us a quick background about yourself and your current role, and then I'll ask you a few questions from there.
Sure, sounds good. So I work at a company called Smart News. This is a news aggregator unicorn, if you will. The company itself was founded around 10 years back. As with any company that is founder-led, we have a lofty mission, which is to make sure quality information is made available to people who need it. And the basic premise when this company was founded is that media was getting polarized, and there was a need to reset and rebuild trust in news. I run the trust and safety team as well as customer support at this company.
So you've moved from like very established companies that have a lot of like rigorous processes and defined departments. You've worked for great organizations such as Google for many years, TikTok, and now you're moved into the startup space to innovate, break things, move fast, be scrappy, and do more with less.
Yeah, no, very well put, Lucas. You know me too well. But just to explain my career choices a bit more, this was a very informed shift, right? So I spent 15 years at Google. I started off at Google when and people will hardly believe this was around 2,000 people. My employee ID at Google was in the thousands. I'm very much a big believer in Asian companies going global. So I wanted to pick a niche where I wanted to contribute to companies founded in Asia, but that had global ambition. And so TikTok happened just at the right time. So TikTok were looking to expand after their big success in China, wanted to go international. They wanted to establish an Asia hub in Singapore. And so that's kind of when I got hired to build out that team. Fast forward a year and a half later, I got hired by Kuaishou, another Chinese company, again founded in Asia, wanting to grow international, had a blockbuster IPO, and you'll start to see a trend there. And now with Smart News, again founded in Asia, Asian founders wanting to grow global, right?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much for that intro. You've been quite embedded into the cutting edge of like what's next, what's the next big thing, and we were both part of that TikTok journey when that global
Yes.
expansion was starting to happen right at the pandemic. Speaking of emerging trends and emerging technologies, generative AI has been all over the news over the past couple of months. We've seen literally an explosion on the scene from companies, either established companies trying to integrate this technology into their stack, or new companies, startups exploding on the scene, trying to take advantage of the technology and to offer something new and novel. Can you break down for us a little bit, like what does this technology do, and why? What's the hype all about, and why has it been exploding so much over the past couple of months?
Right. No, absolutely, Lucas. And given your audience, I don't even need to unpack the hype. Probably everybody on this planet has heard about generative AI by now. But before I get there, can I share some analogy that stuck with me from a few
Sure.
weeks back? I was attending, I think, another tech talk. One of the speakers were talking about generative AI, and they were trying to describe in a phrase their excitement about this, right? And the analogy they gave stuck with me. So they said generative AI has created probably the same excitement as printing press when it was first invented or first built out. I think it was Gothenburg in Sweden. You could finally print the Bible, right? You could distribute the Bible, and it was phenomenal, right? It was back in those days. It was amazing discovery because people could finally read and write and spread the gospel. In my generation, and I'm old, right? For me, the same analogy sticks, but instead of the printing press, it's iPhone, right? When Steve Jobs first announced the iPhone, it was so amazingly exciting. Nobody had seen such a product, and I feel the same excitement is for this generation with generative AI. Um, People who are born today are probably going to grow up speaking to AI systems, which sounds funny right now, but that might well be true. So coming to the generative AI piece, there are multiple names. They're used interchangeably, but they're not necessarily the same. But I'm still going to throw these as buzzwords. You would hear the term conversational AI, generative AI. Um, there's all kinds of hyperbole around it. But what it boils down to is basically what's called as LLM, expanded to large language model. And these are models that are trained on tons and tons of ground truth or open source data that's available, right? And if I were to break this down further, the best way to understand this is if you were to visualize a rectangular box, you have input, and that input could be large streams of data. And then it goes into the black box, which is your algorithm, basically, that makes sense of it. They start to provide answers and predict the future, if you will. So you can think of it as a crystal ball. But basically, what comes out is the algorithm starting to make sense of questions. But more importantly, the algorithm is now starting to have some sort of, if not cognitive ability, be able to answer questions in a very human like form and tone, which is fascinating. Um, this probably has taken, and again, this is not new. Just so you know, machine learning LLMs are not new, but I think what's creating the excitement is, if I may use ChatGPT as the poster child for generative AI, the responses and the fact that it comes out in a human-like form and tone makes it very human-like, and so that's kind of creating the excitement, right? So you don't have to be technical to use ChatGPT. Of course, there's a whole new job stream that's just gone mainstream called prompt engineering. We'll come to that in a minute. But Lucas, you and me, and perhaps my mother, and I don't mean to be stereotyping my mom, but she's not the most tech savvy. She could use ChatGPT too, right? And she will get a response in a tone and signature style that she understands. And I think that is fascinating. That reach, and the simplicity of use, and the fact that it can have such powerful impact. I think that's what's making generative AI more special. And here's the thing: we're still, in the crawling stage, right? If you think about the S curve, we're just getting started. The more people use it, the more industry adopts it, the more data goes into that, into that black box, if you will, or into that sandbox or the algorithm, and it will just get better, right? So we're starting to see something phenomenal here that's just going to expand in the next couple of years. Now, with any new technology, there is obviously social consequences. There is disruption. There is job displacement. There are people who are going to be worried, right, and rightfully so. And that's something we all need to collectively think through, and both in
Yeah.
terms of regulation as well as what does it mean for people in real jobs, right?
Yeah.
What's the fear of displacement? What's going to happen to people? And how is society going to evolve?
Yeah. Great points. I want to summarize and highlight something you said, which stuck with me as well. I've heard this before. It's great to hear from you again. You're basically saying this is the iPhone moment of the industry, similar to how the iPhone kind of changed, and like pretty much every smartphone now looks exactly the same. It's just a black screen, and then there's cameras in the back, and maybe like a little notch in the front. But it's pretty much like, the same interface, the same experience using one smartphone over the other. And it really revolutionized the way we live, we work, we communicate with the apps, and the different applications and the different capabilities that it's enabled. You linked it as well to the invention of printing, which we're not that old, but we can imagine the effects this had on the economy. But one thing you said that's very important is the accessibility of the technology, as well as the scalability that makes it very exciting, because it's something that everyone can use in their everyday lives. You can find value and utility there compared to other technologies that might be a little bit more niche, but they're very, very easy to use. It's a simple interface, the same way as you search on Google anything. It's the same thing you can use this technology for.